Hello, everyone. Welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. And I just hope that every episode brings you joy and inspiration. Because some mornings you just need that little kick of inspiration from somebody else if you can't find the joy inside you. And then you go, oh, well, you know what? It was there the whole time. I don't have to have anybody else, but I hope that you enjoy the show. So before we get started, I always like to start with a quote. And this actually, I went to our guest website and I thought, oh, I've got to share this. All right. So this came from her website, and I'll explain who she is in just a few minutes. It states, as a soul alchemist, I say, people in touch with their joy heal themselves and the world. And I absolutely love that. So here's some information about her. Patricia Lindner is a multi-passionate soul alchemist, creative investigator, an empath, intuitive healer, empowering mentor on the journey from seeker to finder. She is the founder of Compass from Within and the author of Corporate Dropouts from Employee to Entrepreneur. She inspires and invites accomplished women and men to discover, integrate, and utilize their creative and intuitive power, both for their private life and successful career. She believes that life is a canvas and that everyone is able to co create an extraordinary and fulfilled life beyond outer successes. All right, let's go ahead and get her on and hear about her inspiration. How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me on your show and for the beautiful introduction. I was so touched by everything that you said and everything that you put together. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for sharing. I know it's very difficult to share your experience with the world, and because you're so vulnerable, and I know that you bring so much to us. And so that's what the show is all about, is to hear about your inspiration and celebrate who you are. And Patricia, whenever I read the portion of the book, your part, and I also, looked at the website. I'm going, it's my story as well.
Wow.
Because, yes, so I was an educator,
Mhm.
and I thought I could change the world, which hopefully I touch my students. Okay. So I feel like I was able to change the world there. But, when you're in education, you want to change the way things are,
Right.
how they're run. And of course, I was a workaholic. So I taught, and then I also had opened up my own business. So I taught, and then I would actually go into my private business. So, and then I had a family. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, so then I started getting ill and I got burned out. And so I thought, you know what? It's the profession. I'm going to change my profession. So I did, and it got worse. And finally, spirit and the joy inside me said, you've got to stop. So I'm going to stop right there and let you talk about your journey. So, how was it for you? What made you wake up?
I just have a sentence on my mind that is, Michelle, your story is my story. That is amazing. What a coincidence.
Mm,
Or maybe what a synchronicity. That is
abs-
perfect because my story really sounds very similar. Starting from I wanted to change everything. I really wanted to change the system.
mhm,
I wanted to do it in a perfect way, doing a lot of work, being there for the kids as well, working until late at night and getting up really early to care for the kids and then go to work. And so, similar story. And for me, I felt it is not like, or it was not like a burnout,
mhm,
but my body started to produce
mhm.
pain all over the body, in the ankles, the joints, the muscles, the head. And I tried to numb that at first
Mhm.
to show up
Oh,
as this.
absolutely.
You know what I'm
Yes.
talking about? Yes.
Yes.
So to numb it and to just have this pill and then the pain reliever and then go to work and say, hello, everyone. Isn't life beautiful? Just putting this mask on, but really harming the body and the soul. Because as you might agree, I really loved the work. I really loved it to
Mhm.
some extent, but I wanted to bring some change and transformation in the system. And I was overwhelmed by all the tasks that I had to do. As a modern woman, you have to have it all. And have to
Yeah, that's,
do
oh,
it
absolutely. And I think that's kind of ingrained in us. And I
all.
think, being an empath, wanting to make the changes in the world, you're willing to be that warrior. You're willing to take that on. And then you're right, it does take a lot of toll on our bodies.
Totally, totally. And then my body really um, told me that I need to stop because I couldn't get up in the morning. And that's when I decided to take a couple of weeks off. And then I decided in those weeks, I decided that I want to take 1 year off without any payment and just to recover.
Yes.
But as I'm someone who had a hard time sitting still and being on this recovery, I
Mhm.
started doing this and that and this and that. And I have been doing so many apprenticeships over the last 15 to 20 years, so that I guess after just a couple of weeks, I started figuring out what could I do with that? How could I put that together? So very similar to when you said, and I worked on the business. So I didn't really recover, but I started thinking about business ideas and how could I do that? Because if I don't do anything, and this is very important, I want to stress this. If I don't do anything, then maybe I'm a no one. I don't want to be a no one or a nothing. I want to contribute. I want to do something. I want to make a change and an impact. And then, same thing as you mentioned, I thought, okay, being out of school makes me be more relaxed and makes me do it slower, but that was not the case. And I did the same thing again. It was the same thing again. So I sat there in front of the computer, learned how to create my website because I'm not tech savvy at all.
I know
But
we learn along the way.
yes, that's what you do. And I booked all those, I invested in all those big business courses because I was a teacher.
Mhm.
How should I know how to do business? And I spent a lot of money in those cookie cutter approach systems, courses, programs. Yeah, that put me under
Mhm.
pressure
Oh,
again because
and I love that in your book saying, you know what, you tried it, but
yeah,
along the way you're going, you know what, there's something better that I can do and
yes,
I can create.
yeah.
So tell us what you created from there.
So then, and this is just a couple of years that I figured out. No, I don't fit in this system. I don't fit in the box. And I saw this with many other business course students. They felt like a failure. So did I, and I cried very often because I thought, so I'm a failure. I'm just a teacher. I can't do business. And then I developed this idea that it needs to come from within. You always should be guided by the joy, by something like a soul signature, something that really brings you joy. And as soon as you feel like this is so much hardship and I have to put on a mask again, you need to stop it. That's not the path. That's not it. And all those business courses, they tell you you need to follow along, you need to put all the work in, and this is going to cause you sweat and nerves and hardship.
Yeah,
No. Yes, you have to do some
right.
work, but it needs to be a mixture of the work that is necessary and something that you really enjoy and that you love. Like now, the two of us talking here, isn't that full of joy? guiding someone that is really aligned with what I offer, that is joy. Putting everything together that brings me joy. So I developed this compass from within thing that I tried and tested on my own, applying all the methodologies and tools and techniques that I have been learning, studying, and yeah, adding my own flavor because I was often very critical of things that I studied. Um, yeah, and applying this. And now I'm in a phase where I recall it. So it is still this compass from within, but I said it is something like freedom cubed. I
I
feel
love
like
it.
freedom cubed, freedom from pain. And this could be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual pain, freedom from anxiety and fear, and freedom from stress, and freedom for a healthy body, mind, and soul. And that's what I currently tweaked a little bit, which is based on this compass from within, but to really tell people if you have anxiety, pain, fear, stress, I am the person for you, and there is a way out.
Absolutely. And I mean, what great guidance you can give them because you have been through
Yeah.
everything that you've been through. And let me ask you, when on your website, that quote that I said about a soul alchemist, can you
Mhm.
define that? What does that mean?
Yeah. So for me, the alchemist is someone who can, so first of all, really turn lead into gold. That's what I do in just a symbolic way when I work with people, when they feel like there isn't more out there for me. There is nothing more to achieve internally or externally. And then we find those hidden gems, those skills, those passions that lay dormant. That feels like turning lead into gold, and it is already there. The gold, the jewels are there. On the other hand, it is someone who is sitting in the laboratory and mixing the liquids that are exactly mixed in the right way. Not too much of this, not too much of that. And that's what I thought when I picked this name, because I highly customize the service. That's what I hated about or what I disliked about the cookie cutter approaches. I love making tailored things for clients and really listening to their needs. And if there is someone who says, I don't want to do anything that has to do with creativity, painting, and art, well, then we find something that is a much better fit for them.
Mhm.
And maybe after a couple of sessions, weeks, or months, maybe they are open to a creative approach. And if not, that's fine.
And I'm glad you said that this is perfect time. Okay. So,
Yes.
do you mind if we go to your website and look at your art pieces and
We can do that.
also kind of see? I've got a question for you on your website. Let me go ahead and share the screen. And if you are just listening to this and you're on, Apple Podcast or whatever, you can go to YouTube and look at her paintings, or you can go to her website. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. It just went away. Okay. Hold on. Let's see. This always happens when you're live, you have it and then you don't have it. Okay. Here we go. So you do, and I love this because I think art is so important in our lives anyway. And I love how you're dealing with healing art. But when I saw your talent, I went, oh my gosh, look at this. So these are all your paintings. Now, how long does a painting like this usually take you?
So that is very different, and that is so. I love that we are in this conversation right now because just the other week, just last Sunday, I decided that I'm going to share my art on Instagram, and I created a new channel that is healing arts and poetry. because I do
Oh,
poetry as well. And someone asked me, why don't you share your art as an inspiration? And if someone wants to have a piece of art, why don't you do that? And I said, I guess people don't like my art. That was my idea. Who cares about my art?
oh,
And so when you ask how long does it take, so for example, now we see the first picture, that is death and rebirth.
mm,
So I started with the first part, the upper part. That was in 2013, 14. That was when my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And when you just don't look at the bottom part, that is this, yeah, calm, dry land. And then my dad passed away in October 2014. And I had this picture just somewhere in a corner.
mm,
And then after several years, I came back to the picture and I added the second part, which is like me working through all the ancestral stuff with my dad and his death. And so now this is a piece of artwork that is in our house. So
oh,
this was
wow.
over years.
Right.
Some pieces of artwork, like the next one, the eternity piece of artwork, that is several hours,
Okay.
and it is
Okay.
much smaller. The other one is really big,
Oh, yes.
and the squared pieces oftentimes are much smaller.
See, and it's absolutely beautiful because, like you said, art can be so healing. And you've got a story behind that first picture, Death and Rebirth. That is just amazing. And I think, like you said, a lot of people don't really want to touch art, but there's different ways that you can approach it. So, whenever I go down here, okay, and you have soul guided collage, can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, and this is for everyone, and I do this with kids as well as with adults. They just flip and rip through magazines, and I have tons and tons of beautiful magazines, and they create their own, like an oracle card deck, which is their soul card deck. I love this so much, and it is just letting yourself be guided by your soul, your heart, what you like. You just rip it out, and then you create something that makes sense for you. And then there are numerous ways to deal with it. So, for example, the picture with the cat and the boy with the flute, I wrote a dialogue inspired by this collage, which were parts of my soul that spoke. And I was like, okay, this is the boy that asks himself, am I doing it right? Is this the right way? Maybe no one wants to listen to my music. Maybe this is a mistake, too loud, too soft. And the cat listens carefully, and the cat says, that is so beautiful. I just want to listen to him. I want to be around him. I love every single thing about him. And this is just two aspects of the soul. And so you can easily integrate what is hidden to the thinking mind, just as an example.
And I love this because if people are afraid to draw or color this is the very simple way you can do that.
Yeah,
Especially for the young people that, forget what magazines are.
yeah.
Since, it's like we used to have magazines all over the place, but this is absolutely beautiful. And I love the story. And my eyes started tearing up when you were talking about the soul gifts and the narrative. When we moved down here, um, let me get down here. Okay, so these pieces,
Mhm.
with the circles, let's see. Yeah, right here. Is this basically the same thing as what you talked about earlier?
Yeah. So this
Okay.
is again, this is collage, but the body wisdom art or soul art is something that again everyone can do, even if they don't feel like I'm an artist. So for my idea is that everyone is an artist in some way.
Mhm.
There are different ways to approach this, and this is like a 5-step approach. And you always have an intention that you want to work on, and then you ask your body, because I feel the body really has it inside. There is this deep body wisdom. And so maybe not so much in those collage pieces. I did those collage pieces as a part of an energetic picture. But when you scroll down, so this was part of this energetic piece, and also this one. This is like my connecting antennas, so turning roots into antennas. So I went into the woods when I set my intention, and I looked for something that I could work with. And I'm all about colors, radiant colors. I'm all
Yeah, and I
about,
can tell that. That's
I'm all
beautiful.
about connections. And so this is my core star. This is my core. That was what resonated with me when I talk about my core. And there are all those threads in between and connections. I'm a connector, and I love having conversations and being in touch with people, and touching them or learning about them. And so this all becomes visible when you do such a piece of artwork, and it is always enlightening. Oftentimes it's like an epiphany. Yes, that's me. That's right. And this gives me the next step. So this is like installations or creations. And in these pieces, so the left one was the very first piece that I created just by taking the body as an outline, as a framework. So in this piece, the left one, you can see my body twice, laying down with hands up there and legs down there. The purple one are the legs. And then there is a light blue part, and this blue thing like an eye in the middle. This is me being on my knees and just sitting there like this. And this was the framework. And then I let myself be guided by several creative portals. And I created this. And in the end, I had a dialogue with this piece of artwork. And it was like healing portals to me, like 7 different portals in one picture that made me re- um, get rid of or release something, detach from something, walk through the portal, and do something new.
Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. And I saw this too. So you do art workshops for
Yes.
people, and I thought, oh my gosh, how I mean, all of these ideas are wonderful to reach the
Yeah.
soul.
Yeah, totally. And everyone had a different intention that was about pain, that was about more time for myself, appreciating myself. And then they were really touched by what they created. And it doesn't have to be like a Van Gogh. It is a soul piece of artwork that inspires you and guides you along the way.
Absolutely. I mean, when I went to your website, I was going, "Oh my gosh, I have to have her on." Because I think, my grandparents were artists.
Mhm.
And I never really took art classes, but sometimes whenever I just need some time to connect into spirit, art really helps. And it's the colors and it's like I always question, well, why did I choose that color?
Yeah,
So thank you so much for sharing that. Wonderful workshops that you offer for everybody.
yeah.
So, what inspiration, if you had to tell somebody that said, what is the number one thing you would tell somebody to be inspired? What would you say?
Be inspired by not wanting to find an answer, but by asking questions. Be inspired by letting yourself be guided by a question. And I want to go even one step further. be the question. So I stopped finding answers in my head and I started asking questions and then not wanting to answer them, but just living in the question, being the question, and then go from there. Because amazing things happen when you are the question. Because this is like being in surrounded by a field that is full of awareness, and you attract. And I guess this is my idea of manifestation. I don't like all this hype around manifestation. I feel that the awareness of being the question of something that you want to get answered attracts things into your field, and doesn't stress you out.
Yes.
And then everything comes that you need to have in your life.
I love it, and I'm so glad that you are who you are, because it seems like to me that just through this conversation, you'd like to question everything.
Yes.
Why? Why? And you like to, if you don't like the answer, then you take it upon yourself to try to make changes. And to me,
Yes.
that's really important. Instead of just griping, you go, okay, I don't like that. I'm going to do something different. And so
Yeah.
good for you for getting empowered. I know it's like you're going, oh, all this stress. Are you ready for your last question?
I'm ready for
Uh,
your for the last question. I'm curious.
I know whenever guests come on, I always say, okay, so I am going to show you this wheel. And they're going, oh, I don't know about this wheel. So I'm going to have to share the screen again. Let me find my little question wheel. And what's going to happen, it's really hard for us to see it because we're kind of on a little screen, but the answer, you'll be able to see it, the question. So here we go.
Nervous.
It's like beginning of school. Oh, okay. And again, if you don't want to answer this,
I can. So this is
okay.
just a very personal idea because I don't know it. So I know that I don't know the answer, but I believe that there are aliens. I believe that we are not the one and only species. Um, and I really, so you just said, I always want to know why and what is out there. And that is
Yeah.
what started when I was a kid. I thought about the universe, cosmos, where does it end? Who is out there? And this brings me to this question. I
Mm,
guess there is someone out there. I know that there is someone out there. I don't know what they look like. Maybe they are amongst us. I don't know. It
right.
is not about knowing really, but I believe that this is the way it is.
Absolutely. Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you. I wanted to put Karen is saying hello, ladies. So I hope
Hi.
she's doing fine. Okay, so thank you so much for coming onto the show and again sharing who you are because we want to celebrate who you are because you are such an inspiration to us all. Where can they reach you? Where can they find you?
So people can find me on my website, of course, which is www.patricialindner.com, two N's, which is a bit difficult.
Okay.
And then on social media channels like LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm still on Facebook, but not so much. And
Mm.
I guess you put all these bits and pieces of information into the show notes, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they can click it and be there in a minute.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and put you backstage and in the show.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having me. And your listeners are, yeah, they need to be happy or they must be happy because you are such a gem. I
Oh, well,
never
thank
saw
you.
someone that is so well prepared, so organized, and so heart centered all in one. That is amazing.
Oh, well, thank you so much,
I
Patricia.
love this. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. All right. Now, how can you not be inspired by that? And again, and if you know me, absolutely love art. And I think art is spiritual. I think it is healing. And I think you can find your soul through art. And yes, everybody is an artist. I'm going to share one more quote with you that Patricia had on her website. She had several. I'm going, oh, I can relate to that. So pursue what catches your heart, not what catches your eyes. And that was written by Roy T. Bennett. So, again, I hope this inspires you, and we will see you soon. Have a joyful week.